this video, I'll be covering one of Cyberpunk's cut side jobs, labeled internally as sq022 Headhunter. I'm going to start off with the discovery process, but if you're just interested in the walkthrough of the mission, then use the timeline or the timestamps in the description to get to the desired chapter. In another video, I gave a quick tour of an unfinished building in Santo Domingo. The first comment I got said that it might be linked to a cut side job with the quest ID sq022. Searching this up turned up a couple things. The full quest ID is sq022 Headhunter. While most quest IDs don't match the final mission name, for simplicity, we'll just call this the Headhunter mission. The SQ designation is reserved for the larger scale side jobs. For example, all the IDs for Pan Am side jobs begin with SQ. A side job like the shooting contest at Wilson's is designated as a minor job, and those codes begin with MQ. Based on the quest ID alone, this would have been a fairly substantial mission. Next, I eventually came across the Cyberpunk page on the cutting room floor, or tcrf.net. This site keeps record of cut content found in files of essentially every game ever made. The building I showcased in my video can be found in the unused areas section. To my surprise, there was also an extensive amount of strings detailing the Headhunter mission. They provide a decent framework, but not quite enough to paint the full picture. The commenter on YouTube also offered to send me some files regarding this mission, and after reading this stuff, I changed my mind and decided to take them up on that. So while that was going on, I found a comment on Reddit from a user named SomeoneTrading with information about the quest that I hadn't yet read about online. I messaged this user despite the comment being at least a year old. Not only did they respond, but they very graciously gave a general outline of the mission. The individual didn't seem to be interested in Cyberpunk much anymore, so I didn't want to press any further. This was already a big find. I decided to download Cyberpunk's mod tools and explore some of the game's files myself, and sure enough, I found a couple things related to the cut mission. Now, I don't know jack about this side of modding, so even exporting a video file was a bit of a challenge. But thanks to this tutorial on YouTube, I was able to export a TV ad associated with this mission. By this time, the zip file from the YouTube commenter had also been sent to me, and this was the key to finishing this puzzle. A lot of this stuff is apparently from a massive source code depot of an internal test build from around April of 2021. What I found most useful were the subtitles from the planned localization, although these were definitely far from finished as some of the English section had still not been translated from Polish. It's also out of order with no indication of the character currently speaking. Trying to make sense of it all was a bit difficult, so some details may be off due to translation. While this quest was cut from the base game before launch, at some point they started working on it again with the goal to ship it with one of the game's expansions. Unfortunately, it seems like there was never much substantial progress made with this quest, and most of it remained in the planning or prototyping phase, so I can only really tell you what the quest structure would have been. Once again, thank you to YouTube commenter at Sahrawiyun, Reddit user SomeoneTrading, and the contributors of Cyberpunk's TCRF page. With all that I've gathered, I believe the cut Headhunter mission goes a little something like this. The mission begins with V being contacted by Regina Jones. She says that a corpo is looking for help in winning an AI-run game show. From V's conversation with Regina, we learn that the client is a lawyer for a financial firm called Asukaga and Finch. V would have been hesitant to help out a corpo, and it looks like there would have been extra dialogue for the corpo life path. This is similar to Sinnerman, where a fixer calls and offers a job, but it isn't registered as a gig for them. Regina also refers to V as a celebrity and that the client asked for V personally, so this may have been triggered by a street cred threshold, or at least at a later point in the game. The TV ad I pulled out of the files is unfortunately too graphic to show, but it is an ad for this entertainment program and ends by saying, "Ascenso Maniaco is coming to Night City." Even if this ad was just temporary, it was pretty well put together. Ascenso Maniaco is Spanish and translates to something like rise or ascent of the maniac. Maybe it's a play on the term cyberpsycho. There are other references to the show being called the most dangerous game, or tmdg for short. In fact, the file name for the TV ad uses tmdg. In the Polish subtitles, the Spanish title is used while tmdg appears in English ones. It's possible the Spanish name was the working title early on, and it eventually became tmdg later. It's not the most riveting title, but let's move on. V is told to meet with an individual named DB Wayne at the Advocate Bar. You might be familiar with the Advocate Hotel, which is where the Blade Runner Easter egg takes place. It's located on Congress Street, close to the Delamain Terminal in Haywood. The subtitles state that the bar is in City Center, as it is a hotspot for bigwigs to kick back outside of work. The in-game hotel is just on the border, so it's possible this was still part of City Center in an older version of the map. There are multiple files for an Advocate Hotel and Bar associated with this quest, so it's possible what appears in-game was left over or repurposed. The mesh rendering for the building looks similar, especially this indented part of the roof. DB also has a rendering and possibly some texture files, but I lack the know-how to potentially put them together. I'm also not sure what his characterization was supposed to be like. He could have been smooth like current Mr. Hands, or more slimy like old Mr. Hands or Frank Nostra from the Corpo Prologue mission. There is an outdoor bar at the ground level of the in-game Advocate Hotel, but the bar described in the mission sounds like it would have been in the building. There are references to the Advocate's lobby and elevator, as well as a bouncer and waitress that V could have talked to while looking for the client. After meeting with DB Wayne, he explains the extent of the game show. TMDG is an AI-run tournament in which participants are tasked with increasingly dangerous stunts to complete in the real world. It is live-streamed on the dark net and occurs annually in different cities, with Night City being this year's location. There are 4 levels, which are Bronze, Silver, Gold, and Platinum. Nobody has ever beaten Platinum, with the prize being 250,000 eddies. Aside from the cash and bragging rights of winning the contest, there also appeared to have been something about DB not being able to get a promotion at Asukaga, so that may have been another motivating factor. As an incentive, I think DB offers V half the pot. Interestingly, there is a trace of this DB character in the final game. This is a computer message from the Regina gig rite of passage. The computer is in the room at the front of the building, and now we can see that his full name is Donald Barry Wayne. The message is just about a lease extension, but it shows that DB represents the Maelstrom. So there's another reason not to trust this guy. Although, it is possible this computer message was made way after this side job was cut, so some devs tossed it in as a little Easter egg of acknowledgement. If V agrees to participate, DB will ready up for the game. The game's AI host, named WikiLL, takes over the monitors at the bar and tells you to head to the first location for the Bronze Challenge, the Capitan Caliente Fish Cannery located in Santo Domingo on Brandon Street. DB calls the Delamain for transport and the two set off. This fish factory is the building that I featured in the past video. There is a mesh file for the building that matches the layout. Again, there's nothing left in the building aside from some doors and cameras. There's also a flathead activator case, which CNRed and Atliv commented is related to an old techie playstyle that was made redundant as netrunning evolved. That's probably a topic for a different video, but it would support the claim that this mission was being worked on very early on in the game's development. Back to the mission, drones also begin following V and DB to broadcast the experience. On the way over, Johnny is apparently upset at V for putting himself in danger. Arriving at the factory, the doors are locked. Infiltrating the place would have been V's first task. Once inside, the host hacks the screens and tells them to find a red container. DB sees the container up on a crane, but it falls into a vat of acid. DB reluctantly sticks his arm in to retrieve it. Him choosing to perform this feat would impress V and inspire confidence in DB as a legitimate partner. Plus, he is described as having cyber arms, so even though the synthetic skin melts off, he's more or less okay. After leaving the warehouse, the AI disqualifies DB for breaking tmdg's rules by receiving help from a third party. DB argues that V has already died and is therefore not legally a person. It sounds kind of silly, but I guess the idea here was to have DB lawyer his way into a loophole, which the AI would ultimately accept. It's also worth noting that an earlier version of the story had V dying a different way instead of at the hands of Dex. If the mission was old enough to feature elements of the techie playstyle, it may have also been based on the older story. Anyways, with the bronze challenge completed, the two get back in the Delamain and proceed to the location of the silver challenge. This next spot should be a familiar one as it appears in the final game, which is the El Coyote Coyo. The El Coyote Coyo has a lot of files for it in relation to this mission, including some where it is labeled as Mexican Joint, possibly another indicator that this job was made early in development. What comes next might make you understand why this mission was cut. Instructions for the silver challenge are then given, the first being to open the container. When they open it, they see a jacket patched with a slew of offensive and racist Spanish words. The next instruction is to put it on, go to the bar, and order a drink. So they're basically being set up for a bar fight. You ever see Rush Hour? Well anyways, V and DB argue over who should wear it, and V eventually puts it on since DB stuck his hand in the acid. They head inside, V orders a drink, and the Valentinos gradually take notice and start creating a commotion. There seems to have been some kind of life path check for Street Kid, maybe as a way to talk your way out of it, including an attempt to burn the jacket or to blame it on the game show. If a fight does break out, the bartender appears to lock down the doors and windows. V must protect DB and activate a terminal behind the bar to unlock the doors so they can escape. The duo make it outside and hop in the Delamain, and Wickhill congratulates them on completing the silver challenge. Even though the characters react appropriately and the whole idea is to get them into trouble, the potential for controversy might have been enough to deter them from shipping this mission. But more than that, I think the biggest issue is that it's too much of a tonal mismatch with what you get from the bar in the final game. With the Street Kid prologue, Jackie's funeral, and Pepe's side job, it would be very odd for V to march in there and stink up the place. It just has too much of a positive connotation for V. For this quest to fit in the game now, this section would likely need an entire rework. Between the bar and the next location, it seems like at some point there was going to be a car chase segment. From a technical point of view, the YouTube commenter told me this would have been one of these scripted chases where V aims out of the passenger window, such as during the Nomad prologue and the heist. It would have ended with the car flying off an overpass and into the water. DB would have been knocked unconscious and V would have to carry him to the shore. The exact timing and location of this section isn't clear, but chronologically, some stragglers chasing from the bar makes sense. It also looks like it would have taken place in Pacifica. The test build includes files for several locations in the Westwind area, including the shores, an unfinished freeway for the car chase, and something called a combat tower. I don't have enough context to know for sure what the combat tower was supposed to be, but it's possibly where V and DB would have gone after the crash. Before Phantom Liberty, Westwind Estate was significantly larger and spanned the majority of what is now Dogtown, so the combat tower might have been planned to be somewhere in that area. Anyways, it seems like this idea was axed, so let's move on to the real next location. For the gold challenge, V and DB set course for Mega Building H4. So at this time, Mega Building H4 was still set to be open and not quarantined like it is in the final game. The only objective given is to get to the roof. In-game, H4 does have an AV pad on the roof, but nothing else rendered inside. The two take an elevator up to the market level, which might be the best indicator that they were originally intended to be accessible. Being a corpo, this would have been DB's first time inside a mega block. As DB and V walk through the market, their conversation is interrupted by a WikiLL announcement. I guess there would have been a giant screen or billboard. Then Wickel appears on it and announces a bounty on the heads of V and DB, placing the building on lockdown. Oh, kick f***ing ass. A mega tower shootout? Hell yeah, dude. Fans of the 2012 Dread movie have been talking about a mission like this since the game first came out. Seems like the folks at CDPR thought the same, although it's a shame that it never came to fruition. Aside from the market, it seems like there would have been 2 additional floors that V and DB had to fight through to get to the roof. I take it each elevator would only go up so many floors. Each time V and DB made it to a new floor, the bounty would increase by 50%. As the pair reach the final elevator, the AI announces that the hunt is over and the bounty is off since DB has survived. There's some conflicting subtitles regarding whether or not V was also included in the bounty hunt or merely protecting DB. On the roof, WeKill congratulates the two for completing the gold challenge. Then it announces the final platinum level challenge. For the first time, it does not require moving to a new location. There are 2 people on the roof and 1 must fall off. Keep in mind, the AI previously tried to disqualify DB for getting V's help during the Bronze Challenge, and now V is a focal point of the final challenge. It would have been a cool reminder that the game being run by an AI means it can devise something like this on the fly. So unfortunately, it all comes down to this: a final confrontation. And what better way to cap off this epic crusade than with multiple endings? That's right, it appears that there would have been several ways for this mission to play out. From what I've read and in correspondence with my YouTube source, the ending was something that was changed a lot, as winning this game show was likely going to be a big deal and potentially make V too famous for the game's plot. One ending is that V is unable to convince DB to stand down and is forced to fight him. Another is that V successfully convinces DB to quit the competition and ultimately spare both of their lives. In this one, he ends up using his trauma team coverage to call on AV to leave the building. It seems like despite losing out on the prize money, he gets promoted at work because his boss was watching the stream, although it is described as a bittersweet victory. A third and seemingly the best ending is that V sacrifices himself and dives off the roof. How exactly V comes to that decision, I have not a damn clue, but it's written that DB is also surprised. However, V is somehow able to survive because he or she actually didn't fall all the way down the building. Maybe V got caught on a balcony or something? The AI says that V is still alive and didn't fall all the way down, but DB argues that someone just had to fall and that dying wasn't part of the challenge. The AI is foiled by the ambiguity of its terms once again, and admits defeat. After reuniting with V, DB offers his thanks as he has become the first person ever to win the most dangerous game. DB calls trauma and both he and V are escorted off the building, bringing an end to the Headhunter mission. And there we have a supposed rough outline of the Cut Headhunter tmdg side job. An ambitious and frankly awesome sounding mission. If they had managed to get this to work and keep that mega building section, I think this would have been my favorite mission in the game. But it's common that things get left on the cutting room floor, and sometimes ideas can sound better than what is realistically possible. With games, sometimes the story may be there, but there's a lack of interesting or fun gameplay to support it. I know it may be tempting to ask CDPR about this, so if you do, just please don't be annoying or act like this was anywhere close to being finished and is just sitting in a vault waiting to be released. Maybe it could be a mission in the next game, but it would take quite a lot of work to implement in 2077. With Virtuous handling most of the previous patches, I think it's pretty clear the priority is The Witcher 4 and then the next Cyberpunk game. Now, even though I just said all that, and because I don't know when else I would talk about this, I do have a pitch for how they could repurpose this mission. If this were to get reworked on, again, I think it could work well as a part of River's questline. River is a character that many felt is underdeveloped, especially as a romance option. He was sort of spawned from the remnants of another character that was cut, which is yet another topic for a different video. But anyways, I think if this job was retooled, they could replace DB with River and slot this in as a third River mission between the hunt and the family dinner. Get rid of the whole corpo angle and make this job a true test of friendship. In the Phantom Liberty ending, we learned that River turned coat on the NCPD in order to raise money for Randy's rehab, so that motivation could be used again here. As an ex-cop, he would be a capable challenger and partner, and this would let V spend more time with him to make a romance more believable. I mentioned that the El Coyo part would probably have to be completely replaced with another challenge. Maybe something to do with agitating the NCPD, which would be especially conflicting for River and falls in line with him fully betraying them in the Phantom Liberty ending. And they could also get rid of the game's rule that River has to work alone, and from the jump he would be offering V a split. Then at the end of the mission, the AI says that the prize money can only go to one person. This would let you fight River or concede and let him keep the money to increase your relationship with him. That's just an idea, but I'm sure you've got your own as well. As another aside, I mentioned that the bar fight reminded me of a scene from the first Rush Hour movie, and the entire mega building part was pretty Dread inspired. Some of you may have thought of Squid Game due to the game aspect, but there is one movie in particular that I found a lot closer at a conceptual level. The movie is called Nerve. It was released in 2016, but is based on a book of the same name from 2012. It's about a similar type of game show called Nerve, where people sign up as players or watchers. Players livestream themselves taking dares from watchers to earn prize money, with each dare being more extreme than the last. Emma Roberts plays the main character who, I shit you not, goes by V. That is nuts. It's not a great movie, but if you find the premise of this quest interesting, then you might like it. And that concludes this investigation of the Cut Headhunter side job. Having to make assumptions and inferences, I'm certain that I got some things wrong about the narrative structure. So if there are any modders or people with knowledge on this quest, feel free to list any corrections or interpretations in the comments. And if you have any questions about the quest, I'll do my best to answer what I can. There are also some other cut missions that may be worth looking into, so let me know if you enjoyed this video. If there's enough interest, then I could look into some of the other stuff. One last time, I would like to thank the following sources. Simply put, without you this video would not exist. Despite the game being out for 5 years, I'm continually amazed at how much there's still to learn. That does it for this video. Thanks for watching.